the May meeting of the Wildfire Safety Advocates of Waikōloa. We're recording just as a reminder, and I'll be posting this on YouTube tomorrow. We are, I think, live on Zoom. Serena's running and managing it. Thank you, Serena, for that.
We have 5 people so far.
We have 5 people. Awesome. So if there are people on Zoom, hello, people on Zoom and the internet. Welcome and thank you for coming. So we have an agenda. We have a couple things, but first we want to get to our guest that we have this week. Thank you so much, Chief Diehl from Waikōloa Training Area. We invited him to talk about the resources available up there and some of the historical operations and everything. So without further ado, I'll let you start going for it. Just start talking. Tell us what's going on.
All right.
Yeah.
So put me on the spot right away. Perfect. So as Matt said, my name is Mike Diehl, and I'm the U.S. Army Fire Chief that's here in Hawaii. And primarily I'm up at Waikōloa, but I do go back and forth between Oahu and here.
I didn't realize it.
And my apologies, I was a little late on being able to confirm whether or not I was going to be able to come. I was supposed to be in DC this week with Chief Todd, who is there, and fortunately our garrison commander was able to go. But we're getting recognized. Waikōloa Fire Department and Hawaii County Fire are getting recognized with a community partnership award from the Army. So we're one of 7 installations and one of 2 fire departments across the entire Army that are receiving the award this year. And it's just because of the partnership and what all of us do for the community and mutual support that we have. So again, that's why I didn't know if I was going to be able to come, and then I got the denial ongoing because of stuff in the federal government on Monday. So I'm here. So you guys get me this time around.
Well,
But
congratulations.
no, thank you. And just talk a little bit about us up there at PTA, kind of what we do from the fire department side, and then I can talk a little bit about some of the preventative measures and some of those things that the rest of our team does up there. So I'll start off with the preventative measures. So we have basically 2 sections within our Department of Public Works. We have the main heavy equipment operators that have dozers. Right now they have a D6 and a D7, which are smaller dozers. We are the first garrison in the Army that's going to be receiving a D9 dozer, which will be a lot bigger and something that we can help support the community as well as maintain our fuel breaks up at PTA. So our environmental section, their main priority with the fuel breaks is obviously it's the endangered species and making sure that they have fuel breaks around any of the endangered species that are out there. And they maintain over 40 miles of fuel breaks between our heavy equipment and our environmental folks. So they do a lot of fire breaks up around PTA, heavy concentration, obviously on the west side. And we also have ag leases that are out for grazing. And we have almost 6,000, I believe it's about 5,800 acres that are under an ag lease. And most of that is up in the KMA area around Waikīkī ranch area. So they're busy year round, doing whatever they can to prevent, if we do have a fire, prevent it from extending anywhere else and give us defensible space up there. As far as what we have within the fire department, that's kind of at our resource level. It's our firefighters. We have 5 brush trucks that are up there, all type 6 brush trucks. So they're not any of the big ones, but similar to some of them that they have out here at the Waikōloa station. So we have some similar brush trucks to those. And so we make sure that we have a minimum staffing of having 3 brush trucks that are operational and able to be staffed any given day. And we also were, especially with our command, ready to roll out into our community off post as well if we're requested by Hawaii County Fire. So if they request us, we're rolling out. And then we do have some I would say kind of our primary coverage area for response for both wildfire, medical, vehicle accidents, any of that type of stuff. Is up Mauna Kea, up Mauna Loa, and down to mile marker 47 on this side, and all the way down to mile marker 17 on the other side going towards Diehl. So we have kind of that primary response coverage that we do. It is owned by Hawaii County Fire, but we can get there quicker going downhill than they can going uphill. So they're still coming out, but we respond out there right away. We maintain EMTs on duty. We have some paramedics that are on duty as well. And, you know, we're kind of the jack of all trade firefighters up there. We do airport rescue firefighting, wildland, hazmat, rescues, and structural firefighting. So we do a little bit of everything up there. And the biggest piece that we have that can support us during the wildfire is obviously the aviation assets that we're able to get. And our command has been very forthcoming with wanting to supply or be able to provide services to all of Big Island when they can, when requested. A lot of that, you know, does depend on what mission may be going on and where the fire's at. But if it's something that starts on PTA, any training, everything stopped. And if there's training going on, then we do have aviation assets that are available that we can start flying and dropping if there's training going on up there. Other than that, if we don't have any training going on, but we have, you know, a fire that starts because of a vehicle accident along DKI or something along those lines, or because of weather, then we can reach back to Oahu to call in aviation assets to come over here and help support for the fire. So this side of the island, the west side, and specifically, you know, between Waikiki, obviously a little bit closer to us than Waikōloa, but this side is one of our main concerns and main areas that we try to do whatever we can to protect this area, especially from anything that's done with Army training, anything along those lines. So, and that's all I really have. And I am a resident of the village, so you can have that.
So you said you have 3 brush trucks available at any time. Do you have any, is there a plan or contingency if it's a red flag warning day? Or
yes, great question. Thank you. And that was something else I did want to bring up. So one of the things that I've only been out there a little over a year, but one of the things that we've implemented are staffing class levels. And it's not just based off of the red flag warnings necessarily. It's based off of the KBDI, which don't ask me to get into too much of that. But that's basically what's going to tell us how flammable the grass is and how likely we are to have a fire. So anytime that we get into staffing class level 5, we increase our staffing, as well as anything with, well, actually beyond staffing class, what we refer to as 3, 4, and 5. If we get into those levels, any tracers or anything like that units may be utilizing, they're not, that ceases at that point, just to prevent something from happening. But obviously fire can still occur. So we increase our staffing. We will request, regardless of whether or not training is happening, that if we get to staffing class level 5, we will also request aviation assets to come over from Oahu to help support us. So those are, you know, some of the things that we've implemented over the past year. Obviously, they can't guarantee that they're going to come. It depends on if they're deployed or where they're at or any of those types of things. But thank you. Thanks for bringing that up.
How many more personnel live in the village? Actually, one even.
So from the fire department, there's 2 of us that live in the village. Myself and my deputy fire chief. We have several people that live over in Waimea, and then a lot of our personnel are over on the helo side. And all of us in the fire department are all civilians. So, yeah, we don't have any military. There's only a handful of military that's up there.
But you're civilian employees at DOT.
Yes, sir.
Bob, I think I emailed Colonel Alvarado about that last year. I think he said it was 13 or 14 total employees of PTA live in the village. Something in that,
Yes.
something like that.
It's around that number.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate being here. Can you speak a little bit about some of the either barriers or jurisdictional kind of challenges between, you know, the federal DoD and the work that you perform with our county assets too, and how you coordinate in, you know, larger scale sort of events?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this goes back to the kind of partnership that we have with Hawaii County Fire, and it's mutual. They do a lot of training up there at PTA. In fact, they have a bunch of personnel that are up there this week. About 50 Hawaii County firefighters have been up there all this week, every day. And so we do a lot together. The jurisdictional boundaries, as I was talking along the highway, that's kind of our automatic limits that we go and get dispatched to. But anywhere on the island, if Hawaii County Fire requests us, and it obviously depends if we have another emergency going on or anything like that, but it is within our mutual aid agreement that we can still reach out and request back and forth. So we have a mutual aid agreement that obviously if we can't support, we would have to refuse going. Likewise, same with Hawaii County. If they needed to, they would have to refuse coming on. But we have no issues with them coming on to PTA and support. And you know, they've done it in the past and historically. Fortunately, we haven't had a huge need recently, so that's been good. But yeah, was it 2 years ago? I believe it was, before I got here, when they had the bigger fires going around on island. We had personnel that were down by the resorts. We had personnel that were going all over in support of that. And we will also recall our resources if we have people off duty and it's needed for a larger fire around the island. We'll call in our resources for that.
Thank you. And kind of jump into your air assets.
Mhm.
Does that coordination fall directly with you, or is it kind of in collaboration with county to deploy in certain areas?
So for our aviation assets, the request has to come from Hawaii County. And then it goes up to the colonel, especially if it's off post. If it's on post, I can make the request. But if it's off post, it's got to go through our chain of command. It goes over to Oahu to the 25th ID. And then they'll give the approvals to send them out. And it's the same thing, even if it's on post, we have to go over to 25th ID on Oahu and get approvals. So, because they own those assets.
Does that take it in a situation where it's needed?
Yes, yeah, so it is, it's fairly quick. So there's the formal process and the informal process. Right, so everything goes through the formal process, but then there's the phone calls that are usually happening before that formal process is complete or even initiated. That's, hey, we need to get aviation assets going.
Can those assets get going while the formal process is
Yes,
working? So
yes,
sometimes that stuff can take a while.
yes, yeah. So it can with anything, and it obviously depends on the time of day and who do you have to get involved and those type of things. But our commander starts making phone calls over to Oahu to senior leadership over there that makes direct phone calls to get it done. So it can happen relatively quick.
We have two questions from chat, maybe we take them one at a time. The first one is, with the BLNR Hawaiian Land Board voting down against the EIS for the Waikōloa training area, is it safe to assume if the PTA lease isn't extended, all of these fighting resources or fire resources, excuse me, are also terminated?
So I cannot speak on any of that. That's way above me. I do not know, what the future is gonna hold or, what the next steps are gonna be after the EIS.
Okay, great. Second question was from another perspective. We have 8 people on chat are on the call, by the way, so far. So the second question was, were there aviation assets for the Lahaina fire? And maybe you can speak to that, or you're familiar with that.
So I was not here during that one, so I'm not 100% sure if the aviation assets were out on that, but with the aviation assets, it does depend on weather as well, and whether or not they're able to fly. So that those things make a difference as well, but I'm not sure. That'd be something I'd have to go back and look at.
Because they weren't deployed here.
Right, so they were in 21, but not in 23, right? Is that correct? And so is there a threshold, or is it sort of like a operational decision? Is it like, okay, if the wind's over 30 miles an hour, we're not taking choppers off, or like, well, what is that?
So I can't give that. That's up to the pilots
Sure, okay.
and what their policy is. And so we don't control those assets. We just request them and, tell them where we need them to go. But
Madam Chief Todd did address that.
Yeah.
He's here, and he said the aviation assets could not be deployed because.
Yeah, in 23, yeah, and I just wondered if there was like a threshold.
Yeah, and my recollection is that he used 55 miles per hour as the cutoff. But I'm not sure if that's.
That's pretty high.
that seems fine.
Where are the water resources when we do aviation? I mean, obviously, we have a pond down here, but other than that.
Yeah, so we have up at PTA and all around that general area, we have multiple dip tanks that are up there that they can drop the Bambi buckets in and fly out. So yeah, there's 11 that they maintain.
Oh. Do you know how much water total you're storing up there?
So some of them vary, but I believe the biggest ones are around 80,000 gallons.
And also, do you have a record of the other sort of dip tank assets across the island as well? Does the county kind of share those details with you?
Yes, yeah, and all of those, the dip tanks, depending on where they got to fly to, right? They're available. Even our dip tanks, if Hawaii County is fighting fire that's near our area and they're utilizing one of their aviation assets, they can utilize those.
I have a question. You talked about this mutual aid agreement. Can you explain more what's in that agreement? What are the mutual agreed upon terms?
Yep. So basically, to kind of boil it down to a nutshell, it lays out kind of our jurisdictional boundaries of where we have automatic aid, and which is where we get dispatched directly from Hawaii County. And that's the Mauna Kea, Mauna Loa, and DKI area that I spoke about. So that piece is in there. It also talks about how we go about requesting assistance as far as, who makes it. So it's just the senior fire officer that's there will make the request, say, hey, we need mutual aid assistance. And that from us, it would go to Hawaii County Fire. And then they would say, yes, we can send what you're requesting, or no, we can't. And vice versa. But to my knowledge, I'm not aware of a time that it's been requested and neither side has been able to support it to some level. And it talks about our joint training that we do, and that we will, on both sides, offer any training that we're holding is open to the other department. As long as if we're coming in, it's not an additional cost to Hawaii County Fire, and likewise, we can't incur additional costs, and those services that we provide are free. And so we don't, on either side, we don't have a reimbursable agreement, so it's just completely mutual. We go out there and support one another.
Any other questions? I want to thank you,
So much.
Chief, for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you. I was a little back and forth with your schedule, so I'm really happy it worked out. And do you have a contact information if anyone has any follow-up questions, or that we could direct questions to if they come up later?
Yes, yes. So would you rather just put that in the notes? Because
Sure.
email's kind of long.
It's got all the dots in, got
Yeah.
no.
Yes.
That's
You
pretty-
don't have to spell it out. How about Matt will have it, and if
Yes.
anyone has questions for you, we'll have that direct.
Absolutely.
Oh, I won't gatekeep it, I'll forward them on.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
So feel free to stick around. We're gonna talk about other stuff now if you wanna, see what this is all about.
You got a hot seat tonight, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes.
So let's move into our regular agenda. We have obviously Councilman Hustace is here. We specifically asked him to attend tonight to speak to the budget amendment that he's been working on. But would you like to just tee off that conversation? Maybe assuming people don't know the status of the budget and the
Yeah.
amendment and the purpose.
Perfect.
Start at the beginning.
Yeah, thanks guys, thanks for having me, appreciate everyone being here this evening. I'll first start off with the kind of budget process to kind of get you going. You have a couple of dates on your agenda here. Yes, and as you stated here correctly, any sort of allocation or appropriation for funding for any sort of additional infrastructure for Waikōloa Village beyond the intersection isn't on the mayor's capital budget, or even the CIP, which is a 6-year budget sort of span of projects. Next week, we've kind of been through the budget season this whole spring. And next week, we have a couple of opportunities for individuals to testify regarding the budget itself. So the first opportunity is actually on Tuesday, May 20th, as noted on the agenda, and that's 5 o'clock in the evening. And so that's really a public hearing. So there really isn't any business that's going to happen at that time. It's just an opportunity for residents to speak their mind about the budget itself. And there will be guardrails on the time, maybe 3 minutes, those kind of things. But yeah, we're holding that we'll be in person in Hilo that evening, but you can call in via Zoom. We'll also be in our Waimea Council office. Kendra will be there that evening as well. So there's an opportunity to call in virtually or attend in person or submit written testimony as well. So all those kind of apply to a lot of these meetings. But that is like that one time. Most of our meetings are held during the working day. So this is another time where after working hours, people could potentially provide their insight into the budget. So that's 5 o'clock, and it's both on the operating budget as well as the capital budget. So operating is really our daily expenses, our salaries, wages, regular maintenance of facilities, and then our capital budget on these big sort of infrastructure projects, and so forth. So that's on Tuesday, May 20th at 5 o'clock. We haven't heard any. I don't think we're having a public hearing on the real property tax rates. So that's kind of a tentative meeting that's always held that same evening. The second time to kind of weigh in about the budget itself, and this is the mayor's, mind you, the second draft of the mayor's budget. So since February, we've kind of had opportunity to do departmental review and look at different department budgets. And this is really the opportunity now for the council to take it up, review the budget, and provide amendments and so forth. So on May 22nd is a special meeting of the council. This is a special finance committee meeting where we're going to be really diving into the budgets. Really, it's called the first reading of the budget, where we provide amendments to the budget. So those are the first two kind of coming up. There's also, as noted in the agenda, there's also June 5th. It's a second special meeting of the council for our second and final read of the budget, so that's another opportunity to testify, provide insight or input on the budget itself. So with that said, so those are opportunities for kind of the community to get involved and understand the process. What was pushed out today was kind of a, Kendra, if you mind, no, sorry, the public notice for the budget. Yeah, so then it's not a very like user-friendly sort of interface, but the public notice went out for the budget itself that goes through revenue, expenditures, as well as all the projects in the mayor's capital budget. So that's kind of like a public interface with the budget itself. Beyond the large documents, that's kind of a really like snapshot of all the expenditures and revenue and capital budget. So with that, I did submit an amendment. I've submitted a couple of amendments to the capital budget. Some of them are reappropriations of past cycles, projects that lapse every 3 years. Basically, projects that have not been encumbered or money spent will lapse. So there are a couple of projects that I've amended to add there. But you're more interested in about the arterial road. So that one I did submit an amendment, and it's pretty early on in the list, I think, of amendments that are being received by the county, basically our clerk's office and their legislative research branch. They kind of process all the amendments that kind of come through. And so that budget is, I'm requesting $2.5 million for, well, you'll see when you look at the budget, so when you look at those documents that are finally published out to the public for review, and you can kind of see it. There are a couple of things on there. I put the 2.5 split between planning and design and survey. So there's a split between the two, $1 million for planning, $1.5 million for design and survey. I've also put on there $1.6 million that we already know about from the state side. So we already kind of have an understanding, somewhat commitment from the state about the intersection down on Queen Councilmember Highway. And that's for the next fiscal year. So we can kind of project things out, and there's always an opportunity to amend these things and add other years kind of going further out. So you'll see on there for this request for this fiscal year of 2.5 and the next fiscal year of 1.6. And that's noted as a state CIP project on there in those dollars. There are other details in there. I really tried to add in this financial statement, it's called. I did try to fill out and be as clear and as complete as possible with a lot of details to, garner support. I think the support's there from a lot of the council members, just having conversations, casual conversations, and then also you as community members that submitted testimony. I think that was received quite well. When you were there in person testifying in front of them, I think you will also receive emails back from a lot of them about what it meant to hear from community members about this sort of issue. So within that, I reference the sections in the general plan, sections in the CDP, also the 2006 Waikōloa alternate road study. Other reasons, justifications are wildfire, fire, flooding issues. I also do reference the forthcoming civil defense planning department evacuation analysis. So I tried to be as throwing as much in this as possible about all these other things that are kind of been floating around. Yeah. And there were some other things on, let's see, what else I could touch on. It is a high priority. I marked it as a high priority. It's either high, medium, or low. So I did check high. Yes. And then one conversation I've kind of had with Matt a little bit, and there really isn't this data out there in sort of the public frame, but Matt and I have been kind of talking. I'm grateful for Matt for kind of crunching some of the numbers. One of the boxes I did check was a cost benefit analysis, and I look at it from that the lives in the community, as well as what we're seeing from the state, as well as past disasters in other states, about what it means to lose lives in sort of these sort of events. And without these sort of infrastructure pieces, what toll does that take, you know, on the community as well as, you know, the municipality too, so. Though it's a grim thing, of course, but it is, you know, calculated by insurance companies. The state is also, it's in their budget request, so it's in their bill, they've already moved it forward. About dollar figures for the loss of lives behind them, so those kind of calculations are out there as well, and that's kind of the conversation that I have had a little bit. But yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell what that financial statement shows, and that amendment request of $2.5 million. The request is really for this upcoming fiscal year. So yes, if you really dive into it, you'll see 1.6 for the next one, but really the request is 2.5 for this fiscal.
Couple questions, James.
Yep.
The 1.6, is that intended to hopefully be replaced by state funds in this next cycle, presumably? Is that?
Yeah, so it's listed as, in the funding source, is listed as state CIP.
Got it. Second, when will we be able to see the amendment, so that we can tailor our testimony to support?
I was
It's
hoping-
not public yet.
I know, the deadline for amendments was today.
Yeah.
So we caught wind that maybe we would have seen some of them being pushed out in the public interface on the county website, but I haven't received any emails on it yet, so probably the next day or two, those things will kind of start populating. I don't know there could be amendments. Council members that was a deadline, I'll just be very clear, that was a deadline of today. If council members wanted their amendments to appear on the agenda for next week, Thursday. But council members can also bring amendments to the floor that day, so it just, if you want it to be seen more visibly, and I really wanted to have this be shown on the agenda for the purpose of community to see it and people to kind of, okay, this is really on the agenda, we can testify on something that's here. But things can pop up on the day of the total meeting next week, Thursday, so.
So if someone can't make it to Hilo.
Yeah.
The date that I had written down, make it to Hilo for in-person testimony, was May 19th by noon for written email testimony. And we're gonna change that.
Yeah,
Okay,
so.
that's not accurate.
Yeah, it gives you, but to be very clear, any written testimony is due 12 noon on the business day before. So if the meeting is on the 22nd, then any written testimony is due on the 21st at noon.
So that's related to committee vote.
Yeah,
It's not like the hearing.
it's related to, well, there won't be any, yeah, let me just make sure. So your question again, Bob, is the 21st, that's if you want to submit any written testimony on the budget itself, the deadline is on the 21st. Yeah,
And that's for the committee vote.
there won't be a vote on Thursday, it's just, there'll be votes for amendments, yes, to add them into the budget, so there probably will be votes carried out that day. But the budget itself won't be passed that day. That'll happen at the second and final reading of the budget.
So is there another opportunity for testimony to be submitted for the 6th?
Yes.
Vote on the budget.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
I have a question, have you already submitted written testimony? You schedule to do it again?
Yes. Yeah.
And you signed, get it for 4,500 signatures on
Yeah.
the petition. That was all submitted to the mayor in the meeting, but
Yeah.
continue to.
Yeah, it's good to keep it like right in the face, like, relevance, and kind of just keep resubmitting as you can. Yeah, I know it can be tedious sometimes, but it keeps it relevant at the time of that meeting so that the testimony's captured with that particular meeting.
And what was submitted to the mayor is not necessarily available to the council.
That's true.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay.
Yeah, and it was to the council. Yes. To review, or while they were reviewing the mayor's budget. Yes. as we're working on the sort of take action page again, the content of what we're asking people to be in support of is going to be really similar. We're basically just saying, instead of supporting this funding from the mayor and his budget, we're gonna say, please support this funding from the amendment from our council member. I mean, it's really.
And you have that lovely presentation you had on Facebook that was boxes that were very clear on it.
100%, that's why I'm asking them so many questions about the date. Tell me exactly the date, because I don't wanna miss it and I don't wanna get it wrong, because it's really hard to rally community support, especially when people say, I just wrote a letter. You absolutely did, and I think we got over 30 letters this past month when we asked people to do it, and I think that was extremely effective. That coupled with the in-person testimony, I felt like the council heard us, and it allowed us to then talk to James, and he feels really confident now working on this amendment and pushing this forward. So it's all these little steps that are gonna hopefully keep the momentum to have council support this amendment.
And one thing I would say, letters are very important. I agree. But also on testimony, when council goes in to look at the testimony, you can actually see, there's a line item that says how many testimonies are there. So there may be a communication bill or anything, and it may have 5 next to it. But when it says testimony, there are 450. That's pretty impressive. And then you open up the next page and it will say to you a list of the testimonies that have been sent in. And it'll say how many pages each testimony has, anywhere from 1 to 5 depending on the person. So testimony can be written testimony or Zoom testimony or in person.
Yeah.
And then in person can be in chambers in Hilo, or this one will be in Hilo,
That's amazing.
or it can be at the Waimea satellite.
You could go to the Waimea stuff.
Yes, yeah, so this is Kendra, James, council aide, and she mans that process.
And that's actually James' office. He has an office in Waimea. It's not a satellite one, it's in Waimea, and then he also has an office in Hilo and one down in Spona too. But and you can testify from Papa Al, so he's covering the whole district as best he can. But yes, we do have that central Waimea office, and so you can come there and you can testify there.
I mean, for in person,
Yeah.
in that office,
Yeah.
and it goes taking those.
Yeah, you'll be able to see the Hilo chambers, and on a large screen television that we have, and they'll be able to see you seated down. It's just a sitting there.
So James, I'm trying to make sure I understand
Sure.
the sort of the
I gave you a lot of dates.
procedural
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So the first reading, are there up and down votes at the first meeting?
On the amendments, there'll be votes on the amendments.
And those that survive get passed off to the second reading?
Yeah, it'll be like, it'll be an amended capital budget for the second reading, yeah.
Okay. And then at the second reading, that's when a final vote, that's final
There could be more amendments that day too.
as well.
And then there would be, at the end of that meeting, when we reach a conclusion, one way or another, there will be a vote for that budget, yeah.
Okay, and is that an up and down on a line item basis or?
The entire,
Just
the entire.
And then when it goes back to the mayor, what does he do?
Well. So I can give you all that information as well. That's something I've kind of shared up between, even at our community conversations, I've shared up to the point where the council does its work. But yes, there are things beyond that where the mayor could veto the budget and everything else. So we have our special finance committee meeting on June 5th for the second and final reading of the budget. And any sort of changes to real property tax, all those things that are budget related, yes, for revenue streams, all that. There's like 2 different streams. There's the last day to submit the capital budget to the mayor is June 9th. And the last day to submit the operating budget to the mayor is June 13th. So it kind of it fractures out a little bit. And then the mayor has 2 different veto deadlines for each of those respectively. And then on June 30th is really, well, by June 30th is our last day to hold like an overriding vote if the mayor does veto it. But yeah.
So you have to get whole budget.
So he would veto the capital or the operating. So he has 2 veto.
But he doesn't have a line item.
I don't believe so. Well, let's see. No, he does have line item veto. Yes, he does. Yes.
Okay, and what does it take to override it?
That would be 2/3.
Think so.
Yeah.
We have a question on the chat.
Well,
Oh,
is that, it's a different question, I was gonna say, is that, the one that was just asked is related to the next agenda. We can bring it up.
This is, someone's asking if they can get access to the amendment. I know you said it wasn't published yet, but is that something we can do on our website?
Yeah, I would say as soon as James's office
Yeah.
sends it to us, then we'll get it up on the website and we can email it out to people. I'm planning to get an email out to our email list by Friday. And I would love to have the amendment included, no pressure. That's the goal.
Way to guarantee that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course, it's not on you.
And if it's not available, the email is still gonna go out asking people to submit their testimony because we're May 21st is not many days away.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't come in Friday, then when it does come in, I'll share it out.
And
However,
we'll give you communication, or we're just gonna do it on a bill or a resolution or whatever. So. it
or
can
should
have
that be
some-
referenced in their testimony?
Yeah, yeah.
Although when in is number one today, that was just a temporary hold number.
Okay.
It gets assigned to communications.
Got it.
One more detail.
Please, yeah.
Does your amendment specify where the money comes from, or does it simply add a number to the bottom line?
You have to, if you have that expenditure, you also have to show the source. And so I do show it's from a government bond at this point in time.
Okay, so it would be the facility bond that we discussed with staff. Under 30s.
No, it would basically, the county would float a bond that we would pay debt on over time. That's typically most of them, that's like the first funding source usually. There could be other mechanisms, whether if we do find federal dollars, then it could change the narrative a little bit, or private money, whatever, but you'll see that there are different funding sources, and typically the county government bond will be that. Most of them are lined up that way as a revenue source. As a funding source, rather.
So for future budget years, once we get to the construction phase, it would have to be iterative bonds issued.
Yep, or,
budget
yeah.
year.
Yeah, depends on how it's mapped out, how the county wants to map it out over time, yeah, if they wanna do. Like, construction all within one fiscal year, and, or try and, it just depends on their cost of things for sure.
Yeah, but that's where we also start looking for other revenues.
Yeah.
So that's where we start making the private-public partnership, we go to the state, we go to the feds, we do all the other things.
And I could have put other dollars, and I was tempted to put other figures for the construction phase in there, but I just uncertain about all different funding sources that we need to identify, so I didn't wanna jump the gun necessarily.
Yeah, and the purpose of the design stage is to come up with a firm budget number.
Yeah.
So James, this notion of you having to resubmit things that had been previously funding and the money wasn't spent, expired, that feels like a pocket veto to me. So is there any language in there that you're able to insert that compels the county to actually do something, or can they potentially sit on it for as long as they like?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I tried to be as descriptive as possible, and I think having the testimony to back up this amendment will carry a lot of weight too, and I think. The situation is well known, has been well known for a long time. But this is the first time that any sort of amendment, I think the communities and the counties relied on private developers for a long time. And I've just kind of left it on that shelf and not really want to have a conversation about, hey, the county needs to take the initiative here. Or, light the fire, basically, the pun intended, like, it's just to kind of get everyone kind of gears moving on things. Some of the things that I am reappropriating have been sitting for a long time. I mean, I'll give you an example. One was, like Tim Richards, the Kohala swimming pool for major repairs. And so some of those sometimes aren't seen as a priority. So it kind of slumps down and it kind of gets left, and then you have to councilman has to reappropriate it. if the administration doesn't reappropriate it first. So different example would be the Waikōloa intersection. There was an appropriation by Councilmember Richards years ago at $4 million. But the mayor came in and administration came in and upped that to $8 million. So it was in their capital budget. So it's sometimes the administration can take it, they see it as a priority, or a council member has to kind of bring it. And up until this point, and having conversations with a lot of you about this, I've spoken to administration to hoping that they would take that step, so that I didn't have to, put it on them. So that it's still going to be kind of a battle going forward, I think, for sure.
Question on time just for testimony.
Yeah.
So the testimony that's needed is for the special meeting on Thursday. So where normally the testimony is needed for the council meeting on Wednesday, the amendment budgeting is not something you need testimony on Wednesday.
Or no, not for Wednesday. So Wednesday, it's a little crazy because next week we have a normal council week. So I'll be in Hilo for 3 days. We have a committee day on Tuesday, a council day on Wednesday, and then a special budget hearing on Thursday. And sorry, I know I'm throwing a lot of dates out at times, but Tuesday evening is a public hearing. So one time to provide testimony then, or then up until 12 noon on Wednesday for written testimony for the case.
Yeah, so we should,
Yeah.
the normal Wednesday council meeting.
Yep.
With nothing to.
No.
testimony Specific to the budget, it's all.
Can I
Yeah.
piggyback off that question?
Sure.
What's the most, I mean, we're driving to Diehl, or what day should we get childcare? Like what day should we be most, what would be most impactful for us to show up in person? Because originally in my brain, I thought it would be 20th, maybe at 5, but maybe May 22nd would, I don't know.
I'm not sure how the public hearing is going to unfold, like an evening one. People are just, you can comment there virtually for that. Because it is evening, it's a long way to go for residents on the west side. Or the one in the office, but yeah, I'm not really sure how that one's going to unfold. We haven't really seen a lot of details about the public hearing itself. But I think it'd be most impactful. I will leave it up to you on what you think on the public hearing one. But Thursday is the the council takes up the budget itself. So it's gonna be like, I would say that's the best day to do it.
James, is there also a fiscal committee meeting on Tuesday morning?
Yeah.
Is that, it's the same people, it's the council members,
Yeah,
right?
but no, there's no item on the agenda related to the budget.
Okay.
So for this Thursday hearing, we need to show up at 9.
Correct. That's okay. Sorry, a lot of days, a lot of times, a lot of options.
Wants to, you could come and testify on Tuesday evening as well. It will not be wasted. Wednesday evening as well.
In Waimea, you mean, or in Hilo?
Waimea, it's Tuesday evening. You could come on Tuesday evening in Waimea, or Hilo, and it won't be wasted, by any means, but, and the most impactful is, as James indicated, is Thursday, but it doesn't hurt if you're available. We'll have you testify whenever you're available and you can, because every voice all the time. What's the testimony? I'm trying to.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
The state legislature.
It's a firm 3, the county clerk is not, they'll just say thank you, bye, and you're done.
And I don't want to get in trouble, so.
And just to be clear, like that Tuesday evening one, there is no business, like no business being conducted. It's just an opportunity for the public to share your voice about the budget at large, whether it's parts of the capital, parts of the operating. Yeah, and by charter, like it's required that we have like a different time for public hearing for the budget. Because as I stated previously, all of our meetings are conducted during a working day, so it's hard for people to provide, in-person testimony, virtual testimony during the working days. This provides that evening hours to do that. Yeah, but there is no business being conducted. Yeah,
But on the 22nd, the first reading, I would expect everybody in the council to show up.
Oh, yeah.
Focused.
Yeah, I don't know if we're all gonna be there Tuesday evening, I can't say.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Because it's a public hearing. You know, I don't know how many councilmen, I mean, I'll be there, but I don't know if they'll all be there or paying attention or what, I don't know, but.
When we did it last time and the whole council was there and we got to look into their eyes and make eye contact, I think it meant something.
That's the meeting we're looking for.
Yeah.
Let's try and schedule a carpool for Thursday at 9 AM as best we can, and we'll talk about the testimony. Is that?
In my car?
I don't know about your car, but at least in my,
Let's talk about
we'll
that.
talk about that.
Okay.
Is there more stuff that we want to talk about with the testimony?
No, so I want to say thank you to our council member for.
Well,
Bob does have something. Yeah.
Go ahead.
About the testimony.
Yes.
Yes. The question of the cost benefit analysis of what has put together is focused on the value of life. But what I had been working on previously and got stopped, my computer is now in the shop. But I'll finish it. I was looking at the revenue stream that is generated from Waikōloa region real estate taxes. And David put together some numbers showing that the residential real estate generated is roughly 14.5 billion a year. What we need to add to that is the revenue stream generated from the commercial real estate, which would include residuals. So that is something that we can use to help with. If there's some way for you to help us get those numbers, that would then show, what this region contributes to the county budget in relation to the cost. But then, in addition to that, the question then becomes, what is the loss to the county if we don't stop it? That is a direct, immediate hit on the county budget, and also, potential loss of infrastructure, losing the county fire department's facility, losing the police facility down in Waikōloa, any of the other county facilities. And road reconstruction, which happened, that's a big issue in mine. All of those become costs of the county, not stopping the fire. And then there's the cost that showed up in line with the relocation for the housing of people who were displaced, which became a major cost for the county. So those are issues that haven't been discussed anywhere, anybody that we have seen. And it's something that I think would directly support what you're asking for. And that's something we're going to try to get together.
The data may be hard to splice out, I think, because the coastal area is 96743, so it's separate zip code, and it's lumped with all the way in quite high. If you're trying to pull out specific, data on there, yeah. But it's a regional impact as well, I would say, though, too. So it's, yeah.
Well, it at least includes sports. It's people who live here, work there,
Right.
Directly. And so if there's any way you can help us make a connection with the revenue folks at county finance to extract some of those numbers, that would be something that would support it.
Okay.
Anything else about testimony?
Then I have a problem. No, please.
No, I was just going to add that from a testimony standpoint, we would all wish that all the council people would be in the same chamber. But I don't want to dash anybody's hopes. Doesn't mean that they won't be there and they won't be paying attention. But there is a chance that a council member may be in chambers in Kona at when the Hilo meeting is taking, place as well. And I know how sometimes people are disappointed when they come to testify and they don't see everybody sitting around the dais, but everybody is there. They're just seated in different locations. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that that's a possibility.
What did you wanna?
I have one other amendment that you will see come up there as well, and it's not related to the arterial road, but I just want to be, transparent with you that it is Waikōloa infrastructure request. And it's specifically for the expansion, the widening of Honolulu Avenue at the intersection of Holoko to Kamakō.
Great.
Yep, great.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that
Yeah.
specifically.
And yeah, so it's kind of matching what already exists, but also tackling the flooding issues in that area, with public safety, connection to art, library, development, the whole area. So,
How much is that?
but yeah, that's, I ranked it, I said a medium priority compared to the other one. But it was something that me personally, I'd like to see movement on some of these things to kind of meet community needs.
Can I ask a question on that
Sure.
amendment you just discussed? So when, probably saying the name of the street wrong, Hyena comes and meets Honolulu
Yeah.
on that single road section. It's horrible. It's gonna, I mean, people are coming up that hill. Is there anything in the works to make that a safer intersection there? Because even as it is now, it's you're taking your life in your own hands.
Oh, yes, I think.
And when it gets built out,
Yes,
it's gonna be
no, I hear you,
ugly.
I hear you, yeah, there's nothing in the works about that as far as.
Because it just, who puts a intersection on a hill when it's blind, you can't.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of things are odd how they got
Sure,
put into place because they're not safe.
Yep.
Okay.
yeah, I don't have any news on that, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate you
Yeah.
putting the amendment forward, and thank you for coming, and we're working down the agenda, but the next item actually is gonna explain how we got to this point. So we're gonna have,
Yeah, they don't want to spend too much time on this.
That's fine.
Because there's not a lot to talk about, honestly. So we had a big meeting on April 30th, over in Hilo with the county planning department and the corporation council, the lawyers over there. And the bottom line is that the administration still believes that getting the developers to pay for the whole thing and do the whole thing is the fastest way to get the road built. I do not share that opinion based upon 21 years of history. And I don't believe that James shares that opinion, which is why he's submitting the amendment right now. But they are proposing to do a community finance district, which would involve the county floating a $25 million bond, loaning that money to the developers, and then they pay it back over the course of X number of years based upon sales of the homes in that area. That will not come together for at least 6 to 12 months, if at all. So that is still down the road. And so what we're hoping really out of this whole thing is that we get the $2.5 million from James for the amendment, and the engineering and design plans happen, and then maybe the CFD evolves into something else where that's the private-public partnership that goes out for the construction phase. Maybe there's state funds that come in, who knows exactly where that can lead. But I don't know, that's what I walked out of that meeting with, is that we still need work to do, and the administration seems to be taking the same belief system that the previous administrations have taken, and that the developers are the ticket to this end goal. So that's what I took out of it, and we'll see where this all moves in the next few months. Do you want to ask something about? Yes.
Well,
Sorry if I was going too fast.
We put together this set of questions.
Yeah.
Because I lost my computer, I didn't follow what happened after that.
Oh,
Did that get sent over?
has not been sent over yet. No, because I was waiting to hear back from you, honestly, to see if you wanted to fully stamp it. We were still talking about it a little bit.
Okay, so that's still in play.
Yes, that's still in play. We have been drafting a formal follow-up to summarize what our understanding of the meeting was, and then asking a series of questions for follow-up, and that will be sent soon. But we have not finished.
Yeah,
They found the contract or agreement with the developer?
So we have all of the documents, we have every single paper that the county is, I mean, up until probably 5 months ago, we have all of the documents. So we probably could issue another UWIPA to start dredging up any new stuff out there. But there isn't one, that's the thing, there is not a contract with the developer. Well, so there is an agreement, that's a PUD, which is administrative decision from the planning department that basically is a collection of variances for an entire subdivision. That exists and has gone through 4 amendments so far, and there's a 5th one. That's the only place where a second road has ever actually been written down, but it shows up as an optional infrastructure improvement on the 2nd phase of the development. Phase 1 consists of 276 homes. They only have like 15 up so far, and also it's optional. And just tossing out what the other option is. The other option is widening Diehl Avenue from Ho'oko to Kamakōʻula Park. So thank you, James. The point is it's still optional. They are not forced to do anything. And I must have said that 10 times during the meeting on the 30th, right? I just kept on saying, hey, listen, it is not written down and they are not going to be forced to build this. We need this built. And there is no contractual obligation to actually do it. Right now, it's all handshakes and it's all conversations and everything like that. So our efforts here are to get it written down and get it on a time.
Have you spoken to past members and when the other mayor was, like the other mayor, Mayor Ross?
Yeah, so I mean, Bob and I
guess,
drove over to Diehl and we had a meeting with Mayor Roth and Senator Kerner in the room. Yeah, we sat and talked.
Because I heard through the grapevine, so to speak, that there was something, the governor wouldn't have been there, they wouldn't have done what they did if they didn't have something.
They did it and they didn't have something. I'm telling you, they didn't have something. Yeah, I know.
And the staff didn't claim it.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't pretend last week when we met with them that they have something in hand. All they said was they've got these requests for more variances from the developer. And they haven't acted on them. And they've told him that they're not gonna act on them until he signs the commitments of the road. And we don't know that any of that is true because none of it is in writing.
You don't see paperwork, you don't see.
No.
Yep.
That's exactly where we are.
Well, the other thing is, have any of these homes over there been sold yet?
We don't
No, they're
know.
not. We spoke to a representative from the development. They're still finishing the model homes, right?
They could have sold the houses on spec.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's what I'm aiming at. If anything has been sold yet. They're asking a lot of money for these homes.
Yeah, they are.
I don't know. If the market will bear that currently, maybe it will get it done, but. They could realize that, they're not gonna be able to sell all these homes. And they'll build whatever amount of homes that they have built at that time. 20, 30, 40 homes and.
No, that's exactly what I anticipate, and that is exactly what I said to the previous developers, project manager. And that's exactly what I have said to every administration official that I
They
speak
could
to.
sell 270 of them and they still wouldn't have an obligation to do
Because
anything.
they
about it.
did
Well,
get that.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So that's what we're really
20
pushing.
years from now.
So that's why it's really important that we keep pressing with the county and make it clear that depending on the developers to finish this job is not the route to take. That's why we need funding from the county, from the state, from anyone who will fund it. Because just sort of waiting another 20 years is not an option.
So whose land was that they're building on?
I mean,
Who owned the land that those homes are being built on?
they did. So the developer, the guy who owns the development company, purchased 850 acres in 1990. It includes all of that land. It includes quite a bit of land, or north of Kamakōʻula Gulch right there. And it's all of that land that is in between where the houses are being built and the village. There's a big strip there. That's where the rest of phase 1 is gonna go. So he owns all of that land also. Sorry,
So south of the homes that are being built now.
yes, correct. In between there and Hyanna is where the rest of the 276 is gonna go.
Okay.
Who knows how long that's gonna. But yeah. So and to be perfectly clear, I'd be very fine with them building this road, the developers building it. I do believe that they could do it cheaper than the government can do it. I just want it written down. I just want to contractually obligate them. And it's timeline. I just want to, I think like we just need it.
Yeah.
Committed. That's all we really want. But it hasn't happened yet. And that's why we're working and really pushing. And
But we don't want to commit it for 20 years. from now.
no, we want to commit it in like 3-4 years, right? Like so
So we won't be able to use it.
Yes.
Yeah.
exactly.
We're still alive.
Yeah. So we're working every angle here, and only some people are willing to talk to us into the table. So thank you for doing that. Anything else that we want to add about that meeting, or is it okay to move on to the next? Next thing, the SB 897 that went through the State House 2 weeks ago is a very interesting, very interesting bill that has a lot of relevance to us. Now this bill, you may have seen a little bit of headlines about it. It was intended to build the to enable HECO to become financially secure and go out to the bond market. And the way that they're doing that is that they are limiting their liability on future payouts in catastrophic wildfire events. And the trade-off, the way that they're allowing them to do this, is that HECO has to get a wildfire safety strategy document that originally was going to be approved by the legislature. Now it's been shifted over to be approved by the Public Utilities Commission. And there's a lot of nuance and specifics to this whole thing. But we're the ones who would be they're released from liability against, right? We're the ones who potentially, the whole village burns down and they have a cap of 500 houses that they're gonna pay for and only so many so many deaths. We're the ones that wouldn't get paid out on that back end. So we better make really sure that this wildfire safety strategy document that is releasing them of that liability actually is going to protect us and the village. And that is something that Bob, David, and I have started engaging with very seriously, and we're starting to talk to, there's one group, one individual who is very active at the PUC in this state, and we're starting to talk with him about partnering and stuff. That's the top line, 2-minute elevator pitch on what's going on. I don't know if Bob or David or Aslan want to add anything to this conversation, or if anyone has any questions about it, but this is the thing.
It was pushed through really in the final hours of the session, the legislative session, and I have mixed feelings about it. People who supported don't want Hawaiian Electric to go bankrupt, and as the electric provider for the state and our county, that obviously would not be great. That being said, let's say there's a world where we have 2 catastrophic fires in a single year in the state. And they use up their do you know the number? Let's say 5 billion on the first fire payout. That's it. So it caps their liability.
Or it caps it for 10 years. It could be fire in year 1 and fire in year 2 and fire in year 3.
Yes.
By the time you get to year 3, the cap is used up, and all the fires from year 3 to year 10 have no coverage.
No coverage. So for me, I don't love it, but it's passed, and so that's why I'm really grateful we're engaging in the wildfire safety strategy to just see what we can get in terms of some considerations of protections for our area.
Well, one of the issues related to this is something that we discussed with James back in January when you were first elected. And that is the fact that the PUC has a policy of not requiring utilities to underground their power lines unless the showing can be made that the cost to the utility, which ultimately gets paid to the ratepayer, is justified by the savings that would be achieved by not having a fire ignited by those power lines. So that's a very complex set of calculations. involves modeling. But it's also subject to litigation that was completed a decade ago. That in which the PUC announced that it would defer that judgment to the counties. So the county has recognized legal authority to require that outcome outside of the PUC process. So one of the questions that we started a conversation with James about is we got to right then. We didn't come to any resolution. But it's something that we want to pursue with you further. Whether or not the county should step in here, at least to protect the village, the one or two power lines that are loosened immediately adjacent to the community. And that would have the potential for igniting a catastrophic fire for the village. The power line that runs right adjacent to the boundary of the village is one where if that line snaps and ignites the fire, there would be no time for fire crews to even show up. I mean, it would just spread into the village almost instantaneously. It's 40 feet from properties, backyards. So that's a critical conversation that we need to pursue further with James. And that then is linked to what the PUC is going to do. So obviously, if the county uses the authority that's been recognized in the case law to go forward, that's something we can take off the table. So that is a really critical question.
Sort of jumping away from that, but related. It triggered an idea in my brain real quick. Thank you everyone who came out. I think pretty much everyone in this room was at the Chief Todd's talk story. I really appreciate that. Beforehand, I did get the opportunity to drive around with James and him here in the village and look at some of the stuff that's going on. And one of the new things that Chief Todd raised with me that I have not forgotten about now is that in a high wind situation, if winds are strong enough and capable of knocking over those power lines that are right mouth of the village, they're also just as capable of blowing over those gigantic Norfolk pines that are right across from the KTA right there. And those pine trees are definitely big enough and tall enough to block all of Paniolo Avenue and prevent all evacuations. So, and he said, like, listen, we do have guys with, chainsaws and stuff on our trucks, but like in an emergency situation is not the time to be dealing with that right there. So I don't know what exactly we're going to do about that yet. Well, we got one member of the board but they're not all on WBA land is the other thing. So like, it's a thing that we want to start thinking about the bigger picture issues and the land management and all of that stuff as well. And so I don't know if you've thought about this before, but now you are. So.
Well, on that note, though, the village or the board was going to go in zones throughout the village inspecting properties.
Yeah.
Is that still going on?
Oh yeah, they're doing it, but it's all individual residents' homes, and it's both beautification and fire safety. And so they drive around and they look at people's houses and they see if you've got trash in your yard, if you've got overgrown weeds, or if you got whatever.
So many palm trees that these people don't trim them.
I know.
You got a 50-foot palm tree and there's 30 feet
Of
of old palms that I'm sure you can tell us how fast that'll go up. If it's spark.
Sure. So,
Not a mechanism or a way to compel private homeowners to take care of their property. It's, I hear you. One of our neighbors has is it a Mexican palm? It's the really flammable ones that drops all the dead fronds.
Doesn't that the point of the association is to?
No, but the CCNRs don't cover fire safety and stuff like that. So yes, I totally agree that is the point of the association.
I personally would be thrilled if the association dropped the ECC and implemented a safety review committee. And if we totally overhauled our CCNRs to no longer care about paint color or anything like that, but to exclusively focus on fire safety. But that's a thing that we can start having that conversation and enroll in that ball.
I understand we have some new board members.
Yes, we do. So taking a little step back from it, the issue that I see here with land management is that a lot of our residents are older and physically can't do it, or it's expensive. Cutting down a tree is like $1,000, right? And it's just going to be an expense that people. Yes,
Those big trees.
more than that, $5,000, right? It can be extremely expensive to be able to do it. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't do it because of that, but those are the reasons why it's not happening. And so I think that I've been kicking around in my brain a little bit, and I again raised this with Chief Todd, and I'm gonna continue raising this as we start making connections with large scale philanthropists in the area. I literally think that the thing that would protect the village the most is that if we got someone like Benioff to donate $5 million to outfit and hire an arborist crew that would just do work in the village for free for 3 or 4 years. And just drove around and cut down every Mexican fan palm tree. Whatever else it is that we need, if it could be tied in with Firewise assessments or something else like that, then amazing. But the problem is that people can't do it because they can't afford to, or they aren't physically capable of it. And we need to overcome those two issues.
You may need homeowner consent, but at the same
Oh,
time.
of course.
Yeah, and if you can offer it as
Yeah.
a free service.
Yes,
To people.
that's the plan.
Many people will accept.
I think so. We wouldn't be able to do every single home because your home, your castle, all of that, I get it. But also like, if it becomes part of the culture and if we change the CCNRs, we do this and that and get all the stars aligned, that's really a thing that I think would really matter.
Yeah, I mean, while we're talking about the age.
It is, you're absolutely.
Right now, the ECC, when it comes to people building new homes, they don't provide any guidance on the defensible space language that the Firewise Committee shares. So, I don't know if anyone remembers, but there was a Breeze article where a house won a beautification award, and it just was a beautiful house. Trees overhanging the roof line, shrubbery within 6 feet, all the fire danger things. So there's definitely a disconnect between beautification for the village and us as an association and fire safety, and I'm looking to take that on.
Email her. Rob, another new director in chat right now, just mentioned that, we have a 5-year plan for the interior lots. Hopefully that will be escalated soon. But then once that is completed, he suggested issuing micro grants to all of the residents and $500 or whatever to hire someone. So maybe there is movement in this. People are talking about it seriously, and it's not the old people just talking about the same things.
Talk about the tree cutter that lives in the village.
Yeah.
He's a good.
Maybe, yeah.
Good, looks good out for
Yeah.
safety too.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, a lot of good ideas and good discussion. On the agenda, please take it with you. It at least has the right email address for written testimony, but go ahead and erase the 19th, write in the 21st, or get it in by the 19th.
Yeah,
Good for you. And then the last agenda item is that we're working on, maybe I'll let Kendra speak to this. There's a Hawaiian Electric event that WFL will be at on June 26th, but Kendra is taking the lead, I think, on the details right now.
It's actually not necessarily a Kiko event. They're certainly working on it in a primary, but it's going to be called a Community Resilience Fair for Waikōloa Village. And they've done these in the past. They did one down in Kona. They did one up in Kohala. And they were very successful. It involves multiple teams from the county that have to do with fire safety, preparedness, civil defense, and emergencies beyond just wildfire. So it's really preparing the village to prepare itself for these types of things. And so civil defense will be involved. County water will be there, and the premise is that at the Waikōloa school, inside the cafeteria, There will be tables all around the cafeteria where people can come and get information about different services and get questions answered if they have concerns. And we know how sometimes those concerns come up. If someone says, if you were talking about this, what happens with the water department if this happens? And so you'll have collectively all of these people in one room. And it'll go from about 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And in the center of that agenda will be a panel discussion of approximately 6 to 8 people from various departments. And we'll talk about different issues, and those will be, that panel will be led by Councilmember Hustace. People will be able to say, submit questions in advance. And then afterward, people will be encouraged to go to the water table or the Hawaiian electric table or whatever it happens to be to further discuss what their own personal concerns are for the village. So it's also helping village members learn how to not only protect their own homes, but work in tandem with one another so we can create a community of resilience. And so that's really the purpose of it. And we'll be promoting it a great deal because we want to make sure we get the community out. There will be some activities for Katie because it's summer and school is out. So we want to encourage families to come with their children.
So more details on that as we find them out, but June 26th, 4 to 7, I think, when we're excited to be a part of that. And then our next meeting will be June 11th at 5:30 p.m.
Sure.
Yes, Bob.
It's not on the agenda. I've been having a conversation, I started a conversation with the directors about the agreement that the state has signed with the plaintiffs in the climate litigation. There's a transportation strategy plan that is supposed to be forthcoming from that settlement. It was due out last month. It's late, hasn't happened yet. But part of it involves aviation. Transportation fuels account for half of all the greenhouse gas emissions in Hawaii. So this is the biggest piece of the climate puzzle in Hawaii. And aviation is half of that half. So Hawaii is in a unique position to leverage the airlines. And what I've been discussing with Tim, and he's asked me to put together something in writing, which I'm not working on. It would be a strategy where the state would tax the fossil derived aviation fuel and not tax renewable aviation fuels. So renewable aviation fuels are derived from plant products. So it's carbon that's already in the biosphere, not carbon that's extracted from the earth. So in Hawaii, we have huge areas of eucalyptus forests that were planted where the cane fields used to be. Those eucalyptus forests are not native. They're really not useful. They don't produce food or anything else of value. So the idea would be to try to create, through this taxing mechanism, an incentive for those eucalyptus forests to be turned into fuel, renewable fuels. And that the tax revenues that would be collected from the airlines for using fossil fuels would go into a fund that would support community climate resilience. So it could be used for things like building highways for isolated communities that have only one point of access, or other things such as, supporting solar systems on roofs and helping create charging networks for electric vehicles. Anyway, that's the general concept. I just wanted to share it with you because the plan, the transportation plan, is due out from HDOT imminently, and that will end up in front of the legislature in the next session. So this is the window of opportunity where we can start to put together some creative thinking. That can both create jobs on the island, using those eucalyptus forests for something of value. That in turn can provide a revenue stream that can help support our community. So that's the general idea.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Keep us posted on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna want feedback, so as I
Great.
can come
Okay,
to the
got
stages of putting this in writing. Please invite your contribution.
Well, thank you all so much. Thank you again to
Thank you.
Chief for being here, and if you walk away with nothing from this meeting, please give a testimony, please go in person if you can, or go to the Waimea office. Please lend your voice to supporting this amendment. Thank you, everybody.
Water.